Hello everyone, you're watching Can You See Fish? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Thomas and Friends Ranked. In today's video we're going to be ranking and reviewing Series 6 of the show. We've got our usual tier list set up here with all the episodes at the bottom. So let's get straight into it with Salty's Secret, which I'm just going to drop there. Quite a strange opener, having it not really being based around a main character, but solely focusing on introducing this new character, and maybe we'd get more great characters like Salty if more episodes were structured like this, of not having to have them play off a main character, particularly Thomas or Percy. But yeah, just an absolutely fantastic episode. Can't fault it. Salty's introduced wonderfully. A couple of sad moments in this one. Shows Mavis's kind of more matured and caring side, and just exemplifies more of why I don't like Bill and Ben as characters. Harvey to the rescue. It's okay. The crash is good. One of the best crashes of the show. Not talked about enough. On one hand, yes, it has a good runaway sequence. It has a good crash. Harvey is a good character that I'm glad they introduced. But there are really some things that really narc me about this one. Edward is briefly out of character for this one. Where he's like insulting Harvey, where he really shouldn't be, and a lot of the engines just act like asses in this one for no real reason that I can see. No Sleep for Cranky is another great one, possibly a favourite, but I'm going to say no, I'm going to leave it there. It is ahead of Salty's Secret. One of the funniest episodes of the show. Probably the funniest episode of the classic era for me personally. I love this episode. On all of the, I don't know if it's the same overseas, but on all the British DVD releases of Series 6, this is always the first episode for some reason, and whilst it doesn't make sense because Salty and Harvey are in it, it always really gets me in the mood for watching the rest of Series 6, which does have quite a few comedic and funny episodes to it. So yeah, No Sleep for Cranky also gives us a bit more development into Cranky's character. A Bad Day for Harold the Helicopter. I'm going to put in great there. Harold hadn't really been seen too much as being a main character. He was just kind of this, you'd see him flying by and he would be used if there was like an engine missing or something. But his character really hadn't been explored properly since his introduction in Series 2. And we get more of that kind of rivalry and friendship with Percy in this episode, which I really like. Obviously there's the crash. That's amazing. Seeing an aircraft crash is just quite wild in the show because it doesn't happen. But yeah, just a great episode in my opinion. Elizabeth the Vintage Lorry. It's another great one. I don't think it's as good as A Bad Day for Harold, but it's still a good one. It introduces Elizabeth well. Thomas in this one, he's fine, I guess. He's not particularly out of character. I do feel like maybe it could have been tweaked better in some places. I don't buy the whole Elizabeth being the Fat Controller's old truck and he just left her in a shed, knowing how devoted the Fat Controller is to preservation of like old machinery, particularly steam machinery. I don't believe he'd just have left her there. It is kind of thrown in, but it does add a bit more lore, and even if it doesn't make complete sense, well, at least we've got it. The Fogman is okay. This is our first truly Thomas central episode where he is definitely the main character, and it's fine for what it is. Cyril the Fogman is a cool idea, I suppose. It has a good message about the kind of technology replacing things. It's got that kind of moral of if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing, which I do appreciate, just being the way that I am, I suppose. But yeah, the Fogman, it's a fine episode. Some nice shots in this one, actually. The set work in this is good. I love the Misty Valley set. It might be my favourite one from the series. The grey really works in its favour, and when it's combined with the snow in this episode, it just looks really excellent. It just has an oceany feel to it, to me, personally. Jack Jumps In. It's great. It's really good. I'm going to put it there. It's a good introduction to Jack. It's a good introduction to Jack. Each member of the pack is kind of slightly explored. Like you get Byron and you get Oliver being polite. You get Byron kind of doing his own thing. You get Isabella being a bit rude and Kelly being the leader, and obviously setting up Alfie as Jack's best friend. It's a really good introduction to them all. And yeah, just a fantastic episode. It's nice to get one that's really majorly based around the road vehicles. It ends on kind of a cliffhanger, because you have Jack having the accident, and then you're not really sure whether he's going to be kept by Miss Jenny or sent away, as if he's some kind of, like a Diesel kind of trope where he comes to the island, does something bad, gets sent away. But obviously he makes up for that in A Friend in Need, which I think is even better. This is a technical marvel. You've got the large-scale Thomas prop running across this bridge, and the bridge collapses and Jack's holding it up, and everything about this is fantastic. Leading up to that, it's kind of a bit dull. You have a lot of kind of exposition of what happened in the last episode, which I do think could have been trimmed down slightly. But then obviously you have the setup of Ned being a bit clumsy. He knocks out the keystone, and from there it is just a fantastic episode. It's Only Snow, first one that I'm not feeling so much. This one is... It's never been one that I've particularly liked. Of wintry episodes, I usually do really enjoy them, but this one just feels it's just a bit bad, to be honest. The Thomas's snowplow thing was something we already saw in Series 1, and I wouldn't have a problem with them bringing it back up if the episode was good or interesting, but in my opinion, it's just not. It's fine for what it is. It's decent. We do get a couple of different sets in this one, as I recall. There's like the station on Toby's branch line. And yeah, the accident is decent, I'll say, with the water tower, but overall not a massive fan. Twin Trouble straight into favourites. This one's been getting a bit of flack recently. I've been seeing people not really liking this one, but this is what brothers are like. Brothers do argue. If you have siblings, then this is accurate. But this one's just fantastic, and in the end, it doesn't end with them being enemies. It ends with them being friends. It's got that sibling rivalry to it. They fall out. They act like real brothers, which is something that I really appreciate. It's good to see Donald and Douglas in a lead role, because I don't think they'd had one since like Series 3. I mean, they did appear in Series 4. Well, Douglas did at least. And Series 5, I think they barely appeared. So, yeah, this was the first time they'd had a leading role since Series 3. And it's... What a way to bring them back. It's got 2 good crashes in it. And it's much better than the other twin-based episode, or sibling-based episode in this series. World's Strongest Engine, another amazing one. I've made a full video talking about this one, and it's such a good episode. I think the Diesel's episodes are always good, in the classic era at least, because when he appeared it was like a big deal. He was this once-a-series character. He'd turn up, you knew that bad stuff was going to happen, and then he'd be sent away. It maybe got a bit repetitive, but I don't feel it ever did, because they didn't overdo it. I think that not having a Diesel episode in Series 4 or Series 5 really helped to give this one more impact. And when he gets sent away, it's very satisfying. And obviously there's the scene with Henry at the end pulling the train away, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's just a good episode all round, well written. The docks is one of the only sets, in my opinion, one of the previously established locations that looks good with the desaturated kind of grey colour of this series, because it gives it that real industrial and grimy feel, which I think works in an episode like this. I say more about it in the full review. You can check it out on the channel if you want to. Scaredy Engines is... I'm gonna say it's okay. It's... yeah, I'm gonna put it in front of the Fogman. The visuals in this one, really good. I like Duck's inclusion. Of course I like Duck's inclusion in it. He's my favourite character. But it's nice that we see him kind of having that Edward-esque personality, where he's kind of being a kind of guardian and guiding the other characters into doing the Great Western Way. I know he doesn't say it in that episode, but yeah, just bring that up. The visuals in this one, once again, really good. The smelter's yard is, honestly, in my opinion, more eerie in this episode than it is in Stepney Gets Lost. Everyone just goes on and on about Stepney Gets Lost, including myself. It's a brilliant episode. I've made a video about it. But, yeah, this episode, I think, does it more creepily. The sound effects are really good, and the setup of the ghost engine at the start, Edward's ghost story, it's just all round good. The setup for it. Execution, not so good. Thomas and Percy, not really in character with this one. I don't understand why Thomas would get such great pleasure from like terrorizing his best friend. Obviously back in the early days I can see that, but they've been through so much stuff now that he really does kind of feel a bit out of character for him, but at least he gets what he deserves in the end. Percy in the Haunted Mine is bad. This is the CGI era, just crap Percy personality that we're getting here. Percy personality, that's funny. But yeah, this is just a bad episode, in my opinion. It presents Percy as this wimpy coward, which he isn't. I mean, there's a very big difference between being scared because you're about to be hit by a racing express engine, a la Series 1 Percy Runs Away, and being scared of some freaking garden gnomes. There is a huge gap between those points, and yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. The visuals are at least still good. The nighttime foggy visuals is good, and I do like that it's Donald and Douglas, these characters who can kind of goad or have the other engines on, who tells Percy the story. But other than that, this is a crap episode, and it doesn't get any better with Middle Engine. Yeah, I'm of the that general opinion that Middle Engine is a bad episode. I know that some people like it. I used to. It was never like really up there in like the favourites category, but I wouldn't have put it bad. In fact, I am going to move it because, to be honest, it's not as bad as Percy in the Haunted Mine. But yeah, this is still a bad episode. Everyone always complains about the fact that the Fat Controller blames Percy for the whole going up on the lift hill and flipping over thing. I agree. If anyone should have got the blame, it was either Henry or the yard operator. Because, I mean, you can't tell me that thing's an automatic kind of lifting. It has to have someone controlling it. But yeah, bad episode. I don't want to talk about it anymore. What's not a bad episode is James and the Red Balloon, an underrated classic. I absolutely adore this one. So good. Really nice visuals. It's just a beautiful episode all round. It has a good story. James is really in character in it, in my opinion. And yeah, I don't even think I need to say any more about it. Some people don't like it. Some people say it's the worst of the series. I can't remember who it was, but someone said it was the worst of the series. And I just can't fathom it, especially knowing some of the other episodes in this series. This one being the worst one is just basically incorrect, in my opinion. Jack Frost, it's pretty bad. Not as bad as Middle Engine. It's way worse in the American dub, as everyone will know. But yeah, this one is still just quite a bad episode. The fact that James gets so scared over seeing this thing, whether it was playing on his mind before, this is a station. Him racing off makes no sense because Percy's in a siding. He could just go to the station where there would be people there, surely. If trains are still running, there's got to be someone at the station. But yeah, it's just a bad episode that doesn't make much sense to me personally, and I find James quite out of character, even if he does deserve to be scared after kind of making fun of the other engines. Gordon Takes a Tumble it could be a favourite. It could be it's not a favourite. The crash is good. We see Salty again, and it's basically like him upsetting Gordon, which is nice to see it, like this new character who hasn't been on the island for that long, how he can get under the other engine's skin by just being kind of witty and clever. It's one thing that I really like about Salty's character. But yeah, Crash, absolutely fantastic. You can't fault it. It couldn't be any better. If he'd come off the rails and just tumbled down the hill, that would have been fine. But the fact that he just keeps going and crashes through like the tyres and the hay and eventually the shed, it's just an absolutely amazing crash. One of the best in the show. The Chocolate Crunch, I'm going to put probably here. It's just a good episode. Once again, the crash makes it. I'm not of the opinion that a good crash makes an episode good, but this one just all falls together perfectly. The way Percy has his crash is quite good. The location of the chocolate factory is kind of dumb. A lot of people say that it's at the bottom of Gordon's Hill, but like it's never been there before, so yeah, I'm not sure. But other than that, it's a fantastic episode. Buffer Bother is not. Buffer Bother is a crap episode. It is worse than all of these. It is possibly the worst of the classic era. Now, I'm not a big fan of Bill and Ben, and I can attribute this episode as being the reason why I don't like them. They are insufferable little twits in this one. I just despise this episode. If people think I despise Make Someone Happy from Series 5, this is on a whole other level of despisal. This one is just awful from start to finish. There are no good ideas. It's pointless because I don't know if it's Bill or Ben. I can't be asked to remember which one it is. But one of them gets brand new buffers. I think it's Ben. And they don't even appear again. So what was even the point? Bill is just irritating. It's not funny. It's annoying in the same way that like Billy or Charlie is annoying. But I would rather watch, and this is not an exaggeration, I would rather watch Don't Be Silly Billy on repeat than Buffer Bother. The set work doesn't make up for it. The Quarry set looks terrible. It's just a bad episode and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll make a full rant on this one day, but I don't think I can say much more than what I've just said then. Let's have something to cleanse my palate. Toby and the Little Lamb. Such a good episode. Is it Toby and the Little Lamb? Or I think it's Toby. Toby had a little lamb. But yeah, it's a great episode. It shows Toby's determined side. The idea of him forgetting about the old bridge because it's on his branch line doesn't make too much sense, but it's perfectly able to be looked over. I prefer the idea of Farmer McCall's farm being on Toby's branch line than on Thomas's, because Thomas's branch line is already quite overcrowded. The fact that we've got that more world building in this episode with more stuff on Toby's branch line, really quite good. I do like this episode a lot. It's one of my favourites. There we go. Thomas Percy and the Squeak is down here just for the simple fact that it is boring. It's not funny. It's not in any way entertaining. The Dirty Percy meme comes from this, and Gordon has one or two good lines. But other than that, this is a bad episode that is insanely boring and hard for me to get through. Thomas and the Jet Engine is one that I'm going to upset some people now. It's okay. Like, it's nothing special. A train goes fast. Yeah, cool, I guess. I know he's meant to be going really fast, but yeah, it's fine. It's in the okay category. I don't absolutely hate it. If you'd asked me at one point, I would have said that I hated it. But yeah, I find it to be a bit overrated at the end of the day. And to me, it's just not that exciting. It is funny. The Bertie line at the crossing is really funny. One of the best lines in the entire show for comedic value. But other than that, this one's just kind of one that I switch off in and don't enjoy too much. It's not even the unrealism factor. I love Rusty and the Boulder, and that is arguably more unrealistic than this. It's just quite a dull episode for me, which is ridiculous considering it's just a massive runaway, but it gets to a point where because the runaway kind of just drags on, it kind of loses the impact for me, in my opinion personally. But I mean, I think James and the Red Balloon is an absolute masterpiece, so don't take my word for it. Edward the Very Useful Engine, or Edward the Really Useful Engine. I think it's very, though. This is another fantastic one. I'm going to put it above James and the Red Balloon. I adore this episode. It shows that Edward still can prove everyone wrong. And I think it's an episode that was needed if you were going to do an Edward episode. Edward's last episode was in Series 3, where it was Edward, Trevor and the Really Useful Party, where he was just seen as being this wise character with a good idea. This is the one that shows that Edward is still a really useful engine. We had Edward's exploit in Series 2 where all the other engines kind of learnt to respect him. But by this point, this is like over 10 years later. So maybe the fact that Gordon has gone back to disrespecting Edward because he hasn't proven himself to him in a while does make quite a bit of sense to me. It's an amazing episode. Just watch it. It makes Edward look like such a badass throughout. And yeah, I love it. Duncan Duncan is the only good narrow gauge episode from this series, in my opinion. I'm going to put it there. It nails Duncan's personality, this idea that he's just irritated with all the other engines because they're not doing things his way. Is just his personality in a nutshell. The crash is cool. It's in my opinion, is maybe better than the one in Trucks. I'm not sure. The fact that the engine comes down the incline with the Trucks is really good. And him falling into the mud is just fantastic. Such a good episode. What's not such a good episode is Rusty Saves the Day. It's the best in the bad category, but it's still bad. The Fat Controller looks like a bit of an idiot in this one, because I mean, it's his fault that the line's fallen into disrepair. If you ignore the lack of continuity, it's still he's let the line fall into disrepair. It's not really fair for him to just say, oh, I can't be bothered to look after this anymore, I'm going to shut it down. That's not how it works. So yeah, it's overall, it's just boring. It's nice to see Elizabeth again, but I can't say it's anything fantastic. And Faulty Whistles, I'm going to say is probably just better than Thomas and the Jet Engine for me. But yeah, that's the ranking. So I'm actually surprised by how many I've got up here. I was expecting this, because Series 6 is my least favourite classic era. I was expecting there to be a lot more down here, especially in this one where there's only one. But I suppose that it doesn't really come down to ones that I don't care for. They're either ones that I can tolerate, or they're just ones that I can't. So that's why there's not many in don't care for. But yeah, so from worst to best, we've got Buffer Bother, Thomas Percy and the Squeak, Percy and the Haunted Mine, Middle Engines, Jack Frost, Rusty Saves the Day, It's Only Snow, Thomas the Jet Engine, Faulty Whistles, Harvey to the Rescue, The Fogman, Scaredy Engines, Elizabeth the Vintage Lorry, A Bad Day for Harold Helicopter, Percy's Chocolate Crunch, Duncan Duncan, Jack Jumps In, A Friend in Need, Salty's Secret, Gordon Takes a Tumble, No Sleep for Cranky, Toby Had a Little Lamb, World's Strongest Engine, James and the Red Balloon, Edward the Very Useful Engine, and in number 1, I've surprised myself with this one because I do like it, but I didn't think I liked it that much, Twin Trouble. That's my ranking. Let me know whether you agree, whether you disagree. I know there's going to be people who disagree with my Thomas the Jet Engine placement. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this one and ones that are different to this. Until next time, see you all later. Goodbye.